me ask you something. When was the last time you sat in complete silence and asked yourself, why am I really doing this? Not what you're doing, not how you're doing it, but why? Because the truth is, in a world filled with infinite tabs, endless notifications, and a never-ending stream of demands screaming for your attention, the only thing powerful enough to silence the noise is clarity of purpose. Focus isn't just about eliminating distractions. It's not about gritting your teeth or closing apps. It's not even about waking up at 5 a.m. or buying the latest productivity planner. Those things might help, but they're just tools. Focus, real focus, comes from alignment, from being connected to something that matters more than the distraction. The reason so many people struggle to stay focused isn't because they're weak, it's because they've lost sight of what truly matters to them. When we forget the why, we become vulnerable to every little what that comes along, every ping, every trend, every email that says urgent. We chase things that look important, but aren't essential. See, purpose doesn't shout, it whispers. It's easy to miss in the noise, but when we slow down enough to hear it, when we remember why we started in the first place, it becomes our compass, our North Star, and suddenly we stop reacting to the world and we start choosing how we move through it. Purpose gives focus its power. Let me tell you about a guy I once met. Brilliant mind, creative, talented. He built a business that was growing fast enough to make headlines. But when I sat down with him, he wasn't excited. He was exhausted. He told me he was overwhelmed, constantly distracted, barely sleeping, and starting to wonder if he even cared about the work anymore. So I asked him, why did you start this? He paused. Long silence, then his eyes lit up. I wanted to help small businesses tell their stories. I believed they deserved the kind of attention only big brands could afford. That's what drove me. And what do you do now? I asked. Another pause. This time, the answer came slower. I spend most of my time pitching investors, managing ad campaigns, trying to keep up with competitors. Do you see it? He had drifted. Somewhere along the line, he traded why for what. And when that happens, focus becomes impossible because now you're chasing outcomes instead of direction. And we've all done it. We've all gotten caught in the momentum of busy. We fill our calendars, we check boxes, we measure progress in likes, sales, steps. But progress without purpose is motion without meaning. And eventually, that kind of motion burns us out. But here's the radical idea. Before you try to be more productive, try to be more connected. Before you plan your day, remember why you wake up. Before you eliminate distractions, ignite your reason. When you do, something amazing happens. Suddenly, saying no becomes easier. Because when you know what you're saying yes to, you can let go of the rest. Suddenly, you don't need motivation hacks because purpose pulls you forward with a force no to-do list ever could. Suddenly, you find yourself in flow, not because the world is quieter, but because your mind is clearer. This isn't just about focus. This is about fulfillment. When you work with purpose, you don't just produce more, you feel more. You feel more alive, more connected, more like yourself. And that feeling is contagious. And people can tell when you're fueled by something deeper. They lean in, they listen, they follow. And that's when leadership becomes real. Not when you manage time, but when you inspire through intention. Now, you might be thinking, that sounds great, but I don't know my why yet. That's okay. It's not something you find overnight. It's something you uncover through reflection, through curiosity, through honest conversations, sometimes with yourself. Start small. Ask, what lights me up? What frustrates me deeply? What would I do even if I didn't get paid? And when you start to see patterns, pay attention, because your why is in there, hiding in plain sight. Once you have even a hint of it, protect it. Guard it fiercely. Write it down. Put it on your wall. Set it as a reminder. Let it guide your choices, not just the big ones, but the small ones too, because every decision either brings you closer to your why or takes you further away. Don't let the noise win, because here's the truth. The world will always be distracted. There will always be another trend, another update, another reason to scroll, but your life, your one precious, unrepeatable life is too important to live on autopilot. You deserve more than distraction. You deserve to live on purpose. So today, instead of asking, what should I do next? Ask, why am I doing it at all? That question might just change everything. Most people think focus is all about willpower, that if we just try hard enough, we'll be able to resist the temptation, silence the noise, and stay locked in on what matters. But there's something deeper going on, something more powerful than willpower, and often overlooked. The environment we create around ourselves, physically, digitally, emotionally, plays a bigger role in our ability to focus than we give it credit for. The truth is, we don't rise to the level of our goals. We fall to the level of our systems. And our environment is one of the most important systems we have. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine someone training for a marathon. They wake up early, they eat well, they follow their program. But they live next door to a 24/7 pizza place. Their couch faces a massive TV, and their phone is constantly buzzing with notifications. How likely are they to make it to every run, to stick to the plan, to stay disciplined? Now imagine the same person, same commitment, same goal, but they've rearranged their life. Their running shoes are by the door. They sleep in their training clothes. Their phone goes on Do Not Disturb at 9 p.m. They even put their favorite motivational quote on the fridge. Everything in their world is a nudge toward focus. It's not about more effort. It's about smarter design. We like to think of ourselves as rational beings, but most of our decisions, including the decision to stay focused or to give in to distraction, are made in the spaces we've designed, consciously or not. If your workspace is cluttered, if your phone is within arm's reach, if your digital world is full of endless tabs and alerts, you've made it incredibly difficult to do deep focus work. Not because you're not smart enough, not because you're not disciplined, but because your environment is constantly pulling you away from what matters. And here's the thing, distraction is not neutral. Every moment you spend responding to the world around you is a moment not spent shaping it. If your environment is designed by default instead of by intention, you're reacting instead of leading. You're consuming instead of creating. You're drifting instead of driving. But when we flip that script, when we take ownership of the spaces we inhabit, focus becomes less of a struggle and more of a flow. I once worked with a woman who ran a creative agency, brilliant thinker, big vision, but she told me she was drowning in distraction. Couldn't write, couldn't strategize, couldn't even think straight. So I asked her to walk me through her day. She started listing things off. Meetings, emails, client calls, Slack messages, texts, Instagram updates. I asked her where she does her deep work, her thinking, her creative planning. She looked at me, paused, and said, honestly, I don't have a place for that. That's not a personal failure, that's a design issue. So we made one small change. She blocked 2 hours in the morning and booked a quiet room. No phone, no laptop, just a notebook and her thoughts. Within a week, she had more clarity, more momentum, and more joy in her work than she'd had in months. Focus isn't about shutting everything out, it's about choosing what to let in. And that choice starts with the spaces we build, the spaces we live in, the spaces we work in, the digital environments we scroll through, and the emotional environments we create through the people we spend time with. Ask yourself, is your environment helping you focus, or is it silently sabotaging your intentions? Are you setting the stage for your best work, or are you hoping discipline will save you from distraction? When you walk into your space, does it remind you of your goals or tempt you into detours? Design is not decoration, design is intention made visible. And when you take the time to design your environment to align with your values and your vision, focus becomes a byproduct, not a battle. I've seen teams transform their performance simply by changing their environment. I've seen leaders regain clarity just by rearranging their day, protecting time and minimizing noise. And I've seen individuals rediscover their spark by creating spaces that honor their energy instead of drain it. You don't need to overhaul your life. Start small. Remove one source of noise. Put one visual reminder in place. Set one boundary that protects your most valuable time. These small changes, repeated consistently, compound over time. And they send a powerful message to yourself. My focus matters. My work matters. I matter. There's a story we all carry, a story that says we just need to try harder. But what if the real key isn't trying harder, it's designing smarter? Because the moment you shape your environment to match your priorities, your focus becomes inevitable. Not perfect, not effortless, but possible and sustainable. Think about the places where you've done your best thinking, your best work, your most creative, impactful moments. I bet they weren't places filled with distraction. I bet they were places where you felt safe, inspired, unburdened by noise. What if you could create more of that every day? What if your space became an ally, not an enemy? What if you didn't have to fight your environment because it was built for your success? That's the power of intentional design. It doesn't just support focus, it enables it. It whispers back to you every time you step into it, this is where you do work that matters. And in a distracted world, that kind of message is more than helpful, it's essential. So don't wait for focus to arrive, create the conditions that invite it in. Let your environment reflect the best of who you are and the future you're building, because when you do, focus stops being a struggle and starts becoming your natural state. We all love the idea of willpower, the hero story, the myth of the disciplined person who simply wakes up, grits their teeth, and powers through the day with perfect control. No slips, no moments of weakness, just pure force of character. But the truth is, that version of success is exhausting, and more importantly, it's unsustainable. Willpower is like a battery. You start the day with a full charge, but with every decision you make, every temptation you resist, every time you push through something hard, it drains. And by the afternoon, most people are running on fumes, wondering why it feels so hard to keep going. So we reach for coffee, we scroll our phones, we chase a quick dopamine hit, anything to get through the slump. That's not weakness. That's biology. And if we build our focus around that battery, if we build our lives around the idea that we just have to push a little harder every day, we're setting ourselves up for burnout. There's a better way. The people who stay focused over the long haul, the ones who consistently show up, who make progress, who build meaningful things, they don't rely on willpower, they rely on ritual. Ritual isn't magic. Understand that there's this relationship between perfection and rhythm. It's not about perfection, it's about rhythm. It's about designing your days so that the most important things happen automatically, not because you're forcing them, but because you've built the muscle of consistency. Think about the things you already do without thinking. Your morning coffee, the route you take to work, the way you brush your teeth. These are habits. You don't debate them every day. You don't ask yourself, do I feel motivated to brush my teeth this morning? You just do it. It's built in. Now imagine if focus could feel the same way. Imagine if the most important parts of your day didn't depend on how motivated you felt, but on a simple, well-worn ritual. There's power in creating a rhythm that supports your best work. A ritual can be as simple as the way you start your morning. Maybe it's 10 minutes of reading before opening your inbox. Maybe it's writing down your priorities before you turn on your computer. Maybe it's stepping outside, breathing in fresh air, and reminding yourself what you're here to do. What matters isn't how big or impressive your ritual looks. What matters is that it signals to your brain, this is what we do now. This is the part where we show up. This is the part where we focus. I knew someone who started every work session by lighting the same candle on their desk. It wasn't about the candle, it was about the pattern, the ritual, the moment that created a shift from chaos to clarity. That one small act told their brain it's time to begin. And over time, that ritual became a powerful trigger for focus, not because they tried harder, but because they created a consistent anchor. And when things get hard, as they always do, rituals keep us grounded. When motivation fades, ritual carries us forward. When we're overwhelmed, ritual creates a small island of certainty. But building a ritual doesn't happen overnight. It takes intention, it takes consistency, and it takes patience. Here's the part most people miss. Rituals aren't just for monks or artists or elite athletes. They're for anyone who wants to live with intention. Anyone who wants to stop drifting through their days and start directing them. You don't need to wake up at 4:30 in the morning or take cold plunges or read 52 books a year. You just need to create a system that supports the kind of person you want to become. Start with one thing. One small meaningful ritual. Maybe it's how you start your day. Maybe it's how you begin your deep work. Maybe it's how you end your day with reflection instead of distraction. And then protect it, because the world will try to steal your time. It will offer you endless shortcuts, countless distractions, and all the reasons to give your attention away. But when you've built a ritual, something rooted in who you are and what matters, you have a place to return to, a rhythm that brings you back to center. Remember a story about a musician, wildly talented, deeply creative, but he struggled with inconsistency. Some days he was brilliant, other days lost, until he decided to build a ritual. Every morning, at 8:00 a.m., he sat at the piano, not to write a hit, not to force creativity, just to sit, to play, to show up. Over time, the ritual became his foundation. He stopped chasing inspiration and started creating from discipline. And his focus didn't come from force, it came from rhythm. And that's the invitation here, to move away from forcing yourself through the day and to start designing days that naturally lead you to where you want to be. Willpower may get you through a moment, but ritual gets you through a season. It's not glamorous, it's not always exciting, but it's real, and it works. So the next time you find yourself losing focus, don't ask, how can I push harder? Ask, what rhythm am I building? Don't ask, how do I stay motivated? Ask, what simple ritual could carry me even when motivation is gone? Because that's where real growth happens. Ritual gives you a sense of control in a world that's constantly pulling at your attention. It reminds you that you don't have to respond to every distraction. You don't have to be at the mercy of the world. You can choose, you can create, you can lead yourself first. And that, more than any hack or habit or headline, is how you build a focused life. Not through force, through rhythm. Not through pressure, through presence. Not by being perfect, but by showing up again and again on purpose. We live in a world obsessed with speed. Faster downloads, faster food, faster results. We're told to move quickly, to iterate rapidly, to hustle, scale, optimize, automate, and then do it all again tomorrow. But in our rush to go fast, we've forgotten something critical. That the things that matter most don't happen quickly. Speed might help you keep up, but depth is what helps you stand out. Focus, the kind that leads to breakthroughs, isn't found by racing through tasks. It's found by going deep, by staying with something long enough for it to unfold, evolve, and reveal the layers underneath. And that kind of focus, that kind of presence, requires us to slow down. Slowing down isn't easy, not today, because slowing down looks, at first glance, like falling behind. If you're not posting constantly, replying instantly, multitasking endlessly, then you must be missing out. Everyone else is sprinting, so shouldn't you be running too? But let's ask a different question. Where are we all running to? Because speed without direction is just noise. And motion without depth doesn't lead to meaning, it leads to burnout. We're not here to be efficient machines. We're here to do work that matters, to make choices we're proud of, to build things that last. And that kind of work can't be rushed. Think about the most powerful conversations you've ever had, the ones that stayed with you. They weren't fast, they were deep. They required time, presence, vulnerability. They asked you to listen, really listen, and not just wait for your turn to talk. The same goes for your work, your creativity, your relationships. If you want to create something meaningful, you have to choose depth. I met a young entrepreneur once, smart, driven, wildly ambitious. He told me he's building 3 companies at the same time. He wanted to scale fast, go big, disrupt everything. And he was moving fast, no doubt about it, but he was also spread thin. Always tired, constantly distracted. I asked him, which one of these companies reflects your heart? And he paused. Honestly, he said, I don't know anymore. He had speed but no depth. And without depth, even the fastest progress starts to feel hollow. There's nothing wrong with moving quickly, but speed without clarity is chaos. Depth brings clarity. It forces us to sit with complexity, to wrestle with nuance. to make decisions that are aligned with who we are, not just with what we think the market wants. Depth requires patience. It asks you to resist the temptation to chase applause, to wait for likes, to measure your worth by how productive you look. It asks you to stay when everything around you says move. But here's the thing, when you go deep, you find gold. You find insights that others miss because they're too busy skimming the surface. You discover opportunities not visible to those racing by. You learn things about yourself, about your work, your values, your voice, that you couldn't have seen until you stayed long enough for them to reveal themselves. That's what makes deep work so powerful. It's not just about productivity, it's about transformation. What if efficiency wasn't about doing more things faster, but doing the right things with greater care? What if the goal wasn't to check more boxes, but to put more meaning into the boxes we do check? Depth is a choice, it's a posture, it's a mindset that says, I don't need to be everywhere, I need to be fully here. It means saying no to the quick fix, no to the easy applause, no to the endless scroll. Not because those things are bad, but because they cost something precious, our ability to focus on what really matters. And yes, depth takes courage. Because it means you might be misunderstood. It means you'll move slower than the crowd. It means you'll spend time with problems that don't have easy answers. But the trade-off is worth it. Because what you build in depth, no one can take from you. Speed might get you noticed, but depth gets you remembered. And when you lead with depth, when you bring your full self to your work, when you take the time to understand before acting, when you invest deeply in your craft, people feel it. They trust you more. They follow you farther because they sense that you're not just chasing something, you're committed to something. So the next time you feel behind, ask yourself, am I really behind or am I just choosing a different pace? The next time you're tempted to multitask, ask, what would it look like to go all in on one thing? The next time you measure your success by how fast you moved, try asking instead, how deeply did I care? Because in the end, that's what people remember. Not how quickly you got there, but how fully you showed up. Not how many things you did, but how much heart you brought to the few things that mattered. That's the power of depth. It's quieter, it's slower, but it's stronger, and it lasts. So don't just aim to go fast, aim to go deep. That's where focus lives. That's where meaning grows. That's where your best work is waiting. We are raised to be agreeable, to be helpful, to say yes. From a young age, we're taught that saying yes is polite, cooperative, generous. Yes makes people happy. Yes opens doors. Yes keeps things moving. But here's the problem. In a world full of endless opportunities, limitless requests, and constant demands for your time, energy, and attention, saying yes to everything is the fastest way to lose yourself. Focus isn't just about what you do, it's about what you don't do. And the truth is, most of us are not distracted because we don't care enough. We're distracted because we haven't learned to say no with clarity and conviction. No is uncomfortable. No feels like rejection. No feels like letting someone down. But when you say yes to something that doesn't align with your values, your vision, your energy, you are letting someone down instead. It's easy to confuse being busy with being important. But being busy isn't a badge of honor. It's often a sign of blurry priorities. And the most focused people I know, the ones who make real impact, who lead with integrity, who live with clarity, they're not the ones who say yes to everything. They're the ones who've mastered the art of saying no. Because every yes is a trade. Every yes takes time away from something else, something that might matter more. And if you're not choosing those trades intentionally, then your attention becomes a currency spent by everyone but you. I once spoke with the founder who was stretched thin. Every week was packed with meetings, pitches, interviews, emails, decisions. He was exhausted. He told me he felt like he was moving all the time, but never actually getting anywhere. So I asked him, what's your real work? What's the work only you can do? He paused, then quietly said, I haven't done that in months. He didn't need a new planner. He didn't need a better time management system. He needed the courage to say no. No to the things that diluted his focus. No to the noise. No to the good things that weren't the right things. This is where leadership starts, with the discipline to choose what matters most and to protect it fiercely. And here's what's counterintuitive. When you say no to the wrong things, you create space for the right things to flourish. You give yourself permission to go deeper, to think longer, to move more meaningfully. You don't just get more time, you get yourself back. But saying no isn't about being harsh or cold, it's about being honest. It's about understanding that your time is not infinite, that your attention is not limitless, and that every choice you make reflects what you value. I've met leaders who say yes to every email, every request, every meeting, not because they believe in it, but because they're afraid of being seen as unavailable. And I've met creatives who say yes to every collaboration, every opportunity, every idea, not because it excites them, but because they don't want to miss out. Fear is a terrible compass. When we say yes out of fear of disappointing others, fear of missing out, fear of confrontation, we dilute the very thing that makes us effective, our presence. But when we learn to say no from a place of purpose, everything shifts. Suddenly, your calendar becomes a reflection of your values. Your to-do list becomes intentional, not overwhelming. Your energy returns, your focus sharpens, and your impact grows. Because you're not trying to do everything, you're doing the right things. I remember a woman in healthcare who was on the edge of burnout. Brilliant, committed, deeply caring. She had a habit of saying yes to every extra shift, every request, every committee. It came from a good place. She wanted to help. But her health was suffering. Her relationships were strained. She was tired all the time. One day she said, I realized I was being generous with everyone except myself. That moment changed everything for her. She started saying no, not because she stopped caring, but because she finally understood that her care had limits, that she couldn't pour from an empty cup. And slowly she came back to life, not by doing more, but by doing less with more intention. Here's the truth. Your no doesn't need to come with guilt. It can come with grace. You can say no kindly. You can say no clearly. You can say no in a way that honors both yourself and the other person, because saying no doesn't close a door, it opens a boundary. It's a way of saying yes to the work that matters, to the people who energize you, to the life you actually want to build. So how do you start? Start with clarity. Know what matters to you. What do you want your life to feel like? What does success actually mean to you? What are the top 3 things that deserve your best attention? Once you know that, no becomes easier because it's no longer about rejecting others. It's about protecting what's most important. Then practice. Saying no is a skill. And like any skill, it gets easier the more you use it. Start with small things. Build the muscle. Learn how to say no without apology, but with respect. And finally, trust. Trust that your value isn't measured by how much you say yes. It's measured by how well you live in alignment with what matters most. Focus isn't just about having a plan, it's about having the boundaries that make that plan possible. So say no. Say it with love. Say it with strength, because every no you speak from purpose is a yes to the life you're here to lead.